Throwaway account. I, 30, am a man and have been with my girlfriend, 28, for 4 years. Our relationship has had its ups and downs, but I feel like we are at a breaking point. In the past, there have been trust issues. At the very beginning of the relationship, I mentioned that I asked a girl we mutually knew on a date before I had ever met my girlfriend. I bailed on the date and it never happened. This was the one and only time we have ever met in person. The said girl lives in a different state and we texted on and off for less than 3 weeks. I genuinely sent maybe 20 texts. My girlfriend said she felt betrayed and considered it as if I was talking to her and wasn't upfront. Regardless of me disagreeing, I have apologized profusely, and this is something that is still brought up to this day. I have been in therapy for 200 plus years trying to work out our relationship. She made an ultimatum early on that it was therapy or our relationship was over. At this point, she has been in therapy for 1 year. I mentioned to her early on that she should try to work on her anxiety. She is the one who told me she suffers from major anxiety, and she mentioned she is dealing with it personally, and I am the one with the lying problem. She put it off for 3 years. We now live together. It took 4 years to get to this point because she said after the first incident, she couldn't trust me. 2 years into our relationship, I mentioned moving in together and she still wasn't at that point. The 3rd year of our relationship, her sister's engagement fell apart. So rather than her sister living alone, they got a place together. She didn't even talk to me about it really, told rather than talked. Our disagreements reached a boiling point when I didn't take her on vacation for her birthday last year. Her exact words were, "I have been asking you to go on vacation all year for my birthday. The only reason I am not away is because of you." Mind you, she was also asking her sisters to go, but they did not take her. From then on, everything I have done has not seemed good enough. I spent 2 days prepping and decorating my entire place for her birthday and got her a standing desk she has been badly asking for, only to turn around and hear she does not want to have a home-cooked meal for her birthday, and a desk is a gift she would expect from her family. She would expect an expensive purse from her long-term boyfriend. We moved into our place in the fall, and it has been all downhill. From fights about my family to me still not being able to build trust in her eyes. I give her my phone to look through all the time. I am an open book, and have been for years. Here's where the larger fights happen. We spoke about being engaged by the end of the last year, but before that happened, in our huge fights, she mentioned on more than one occasion that she would get her family to come and move all of her stuff out. She has also said, if I knew we weren't going to be engaged by the end of the year, I would have never moved here in the fall. When speaking about the wedding planning, I brought up that I would like my family to have some say in the wedding planning with her, but she laughed at me and said it's her day completely. Speaking to her, I told her that I don't think we are in a place to get engaged. We are in a very unhealthy situation, with doors slamming and yelling. I told her that her reaction of moving her things out in an instant is extremely concerning, as I wouldn't say anything close to that to her. I want to try and work out our problems. She said that I am delaying our wedding and future, and made a selfish decision. To which I replied, how could she get engaged when she speaks about moving out, having her dad call me to give me a talk? Clearly, we have some major problems. Moving into the new year, it's more of the same. It's door slamming, being called a manipulative loser, a coward. In talking to her now, because our relationship is in an extremely rocky place, I brought up couples therapy. I said either before the engagement or after. I don't care. I want to know that we will make it. We are in therapy separately, and she is claiming she has zero interest to open old wounds. And it's either we get engaged within a month's time or she is moving out. She claims that I start some of the fights, but I tell her I can understand that and fully take accountability for my half. At the same time, it's no excuse to literally be knocking on the bathroom door at 7 a.m. while I'm brushing my teeth to yell, cry, and scream. At a certain point, I think she needs to take accountability for her actions as well. I am always the one apologizing. Always. When I asked her to apologize for the name calling, she said, "Next time, I will say it's coward behavior." No apology. I am far from perfect. I have been in therapy to work on myself. I am night and day from the person I was. I consistently take accountability and genuinely apologize if I mess up. To this day, I have never called her a name. In the past 3 years of our relationship, I have raised my voice 5 times. I am someone that has always been called extremely patient. She herself writes this in cards every year, thanking me for being patient. In the past few months we have lived here, I have probably raised my voice double that I have the past 3 years. She claims in this quest to stand up for myself. I have lost my empathy, but I am emotionally at zero. I am so tired of being the nice, patient man, and our relationship not changing 1%. She still looks through my phone 3 years later and claims she will never stop and will never again need a reason. Her reason is 3 years ago. I don't think our relationship will work without couples therapy. I truly think we need to discuss our communication and how we want to maneuver. I am not looking to be told anything that will make me feel better. I'm a man honestly looking for help. I am at a loss. Do you see this relationship being saved? Is it already too late? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, time to move in. As I was reading along, I was thinking, oh my God, she sounds exhausting. And it just kept going downhill from there. Do not marry this person. It would be sheer misery, at least for you. I get the sense that you maybe have some low self-esteem and either feel like you deserve the abuse or that you couldn't find someone else if you and she broke up. I may be way off base, but it might be something to discuss with your personal, not couples, therapist. I wish you the best. Please don't marry this person. Comment 2. Okay, that feeling that you have in the pit of your stomach is your body's way of telling you that something is wrong. It's always there, isn't it? She sounds exhausting, and you sound like you need some well-deserved rest. Get out of this relationship. This will never get better. She is harassing you and gaslighting you. She will never trust you and will continue to manipulate you into things you don't want. Just leave. Don't waste another day on this. You deserve to be happy. You are not happy. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, the other day, I thought things might actually be looking up. My girlfriend's birthday was coming up again, and I was determined to make it right this time. I planned a surprise party, invited all her friends, and even managed to book her favorite band to play a small set. I thought, this has to work, right? Well, the day of the party, her ex shows up. I didn't invite him, but there he was, standing at the door with the biggest bouquet of flowers you've ever seen. My girlfriend was over the moon, and I could see the look in her eyes. It was like I wasn't even there. The whole night, she was by his side, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm. It was clear to everyone but her that he was trying to win her back. I tried to brush it off, but inside, I was fuming. I spent weeks planning this party, and he just waltzes in and steals the show? After everyone left, we had a huge fight. She accused me of being jealous and petty. I couldn't believe it. I was the one who put in all the effort, and I was the one being attacked. A few days later, I found out she'd been texting him behind my back. She said they were just catching up, but who knows? I wanted to trust her, but after everything, it was hard. I suggested we go to couples therapy again, but she shut it down immediately. She said she was tired of rehashing the past and that I needed to get over it. Then her sister got involved. She came over one day when I wasn't home, and they had a long talk. I don't know what was said, but when I got back, my girlfriend was packing her bags. She said she needed space and was going to stay with her sister for a while. I was stunned. I didn't want her to go, but I didn't stop her either. I thought maybe a little time apart would do us good, but it didn't. She came back after a week and nothing had changed. We were still fighting, still not trusting each other. It was like we were stuck in this toxic cycle, and I didn't know how to break it. And then, the news. She told me she was pregnant. I was shocked. We hadn't planned this, and with everything going on, it was the last thing I expected. She was happy, though. Said it was a sign that we were meant to be together. I wanted to be happy too, but I was scared. How could we bring a child into this mess? We talked about it, and she made it clear that she wanted to keep the baby. I supported her decision, but I was still worried. I suggest again that we try couples therapy, for the sake of our future child, if nothing else. She finally agreed, but only after I promised that we would get engaged soon. I felt cornered, but I said yes. I loved her, after all, and maybe this was what we needed to finally fix things. So we started therapy, and it was rough. We dug up a lot of old issues, and there were tears and shouting in almost every session. But slowly, things started to get better. We were communicating more, and I felt like we were making progress. But then, her ex came back into the picture. He'd heard about the pregnancy and wanted to be involved. He claimed he still had feelings for her and that they had unfinished business. My girlfriend was confused, and I could see her starting to waver. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was losing her all over again. We had another huge fight, and she left to stay with her sister again. This time, I wasn't sure if she would come back. I felt like everything was falling apart. I was about to become a father, and I didn't even know if I would be raising my child with the woman I loved. But after a few days, she came back. She said she'd made a mistake and that she wanted to be with me. I was relieved, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. She seemed distant, and I couldn't help but wonder if she was still thinking about her ex. So here we are, trying to pick up the pieces. We're still in therapy, and the baby's on the way. I'm hopeful, but I can't shake the fear that this is all going to fall apart again. I want to believe we can make it work, but sometimes I'm not so sure. Thanks for reading. My boyfriend gossips to his best friend about our fights, and she tells everyone. So I expose their secrets and watch them squirm as I take back control. My boyfriend Victor, 30-year-old male, is best friends with Sonia, 30-year-old female, for more than 2 decades. He and I have been in a relationship for the last 3 months. We did know each other for a few years, but started a closer friendship 6 months ago. Victor has a habit of venting to Sonia about our arguments, just our arguments. I did not know this until after I contacted her via messages. It has been brought to my attention that Sonia shared the details from those rants with multiple people I know. These are very private and intimate details I would not share with her on my own. I believe she does this due to her only knowing the bad parts of me, and only my faults and arguments, relationship with Victor. He never says anything nice about me to her, how I am supportive to him, and how I encourage and help him in many ways. Recently, we have had frequent arguments about Sonia. I reached out to her to talk about the latest issue caused by her gossiping, and she was very hostile and rude towards me. I did advise that I know the root of the issue is Victor, and that I talked to him about balancing the things he says in frustration, but that I wanted to clear the air with her too, so there are no misunderstandings. She did send a message to Victor, how the issue is that he hurt my feelings, and that this issue was his fault. He read the message aloud to me, and it sounded like she did understand where I was coming from. I asked Victor for his phone so I can read what she sent. Victor read it in a very casual way, but the wording she used indicates she is sarcastic and making fun of me for having my feelings hurt. I asked if I can read other messages about me, strictly about me, nothing in between. He said that I can, but that I will not like them. He said it in a very self-assured way. Well, the messages advise she has been talking badly about me for 6 months, almost weekly, calling me a man-hopper, putting it in polite terms, an idiot, mentally unstable, an offensive term for a person with a disability, crazy, evil, toxic, saying there's something wrong with me. Victor just said things like, I know, but I really want to make this work, relationship with me. Please note that during the talks with Victor, he shared my mental health history with her. So her main insult relates to my mental state. I had a big argument with Victor and told him he needs to learn how to regain my trust, and he needs to come clean and balance out the opinion Sonia has about me. I told him it was manipulative that he withheld his own wrongdoings, and just told her my issues and my bad points and arguments. After hours of him trying to explain how he just calls her when he needs to vent and when he is happy, he is with me. That is the reason he gave on why he never tells her good things about me. So Sonia doesn't like me. I reached out again and, in full honesty, addressed how I don't like the insults that she called me, that I will forgive this time, but not the next. I explained that Victor and I had talked and that he admitted to telling some lies about me and the one-sided arguments. I said that I understand her hostility. It is natural if she never hears anything nice about me, but that Victor will amend this on both ends. I was a bit harsh, but this is the third time we have the same issue, and the first time really addressing it. In my harshness, I repeated the insults she said to me, not to her, but letting her know I know all the things she has called me. I told her I was raised in a strict religious family and that I can't allow gossip about my intimacy and mental health, how it needs to stop. I made a few jokes about the insults she called me to try to lighten the mood, and I said I'm not welcoming gentlemen callers, but I'm welcoming everything else, her feelings about this. I said that I think we share some core values, but that it is all tainted by the negative one-sided stories we hear about each other. Told her I hope she understands and overall left the communication open. She told me I need to get off my moral high ground, how I am not important to her, and I'm no one to be teaching her about how Victor works, that she doesn't care about me or if I'm with him, that he will always have her support. I stepped in and said that being a supportive friend means being polite and welcoming to his partner of choice, even if she does not approve. She declined and said that is not true if the partner of choice is a big mess, and that she will continue to tell him that as his friend. Prior to this talk, Victor told her I will reach out and for her to talk nicely to me, as I am very important to him, I know. Ironic since he validated her opinion about me. She ignored his wishes and was rude. I feel like 6 months of friendship and 3 months of dating will never be equal to 20 years of friendship. I feel very little and invisible with my needs in such a long relationship. I don't want him to lose a friend over me, but I don't want to be lost over a friend that insults me. I want to share this post with my boyfriend, as I am not sure how to proceed further. Is it even worth it? I fear that she will always be this hostile, and I know it is Victor's fault to start with. I've addressed my issues with Victor, and we talked about ways to work on mutual trust. However, he isn't sure either what to do with Sonia and just said he will talk to her. What are some good boundaries to put in place while this is resolved, if at all? Thank you all for reading. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You have a boyfriend problem. She is like this because he allows her to behave that way, and I'm sure this isn't the first time she acts inappropriately. Her behavior is more than just crossing boundaries. You are not his real girlfriend, she is. You can vent and complain to friends, but not like this. She is toxic as hell. And he? OP, you can do better. Show him this post. Let him see what Reddit thinks about him. He allows another woman to talk shoot about you. He even initiated it. You are too old for this teenage shoot. She is not a friend. Not for him and not for you. Friends try to help. They don't always take your side. They listen and give advice. She pours fuel on the fire. And he is not boyfriend material if he thinks that he and her didn't do anything wrong. Don't waste more of your precious time. Life is too short to waste it with people and freaks like that. Comment 2. Honestly, just walk away. Victor is not the one. He's more interested in venting to the gossip spreader than working with his partner to develop the relationship. He has gone out of his way to portray you in the worst possible light, while minimizing how toxic he is in spreading your private business. And as for Sonia, let her have him. Walk away and let that be the last bit of gossip spreading she gets to thrive on. You deserve way better from your relationships and your friendships. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around. So here's what went down in the past 2 weeks. After the whole mess with Sonia, I thought Victor and I were on the same page. But boy, was I wrong. Turns out, he had promised to take me to his cousin's wedding, a big family event. I was looking forward to it, a chance to start fresh with his family. But at the last minute, he tells me Sonia's going instead of me. Says she's like family and it would be weird if she wasn't there. I was floored. After everything, he still chose her over me. I didn't fight it, just nodded and said, I understood. But inside, I was boiling. The wedding day comes and I'm at home scrolling through social media when pictures start popping up. There's Victor and Sonia, all cozy, looking like a couple. My phone blew up with friends asking if we'd broken up. I didn't even know what to say. I felt like such a fool, just letting him walk all over me and not standing up for myself. But wait, it gets worse. A couple of days later, I find out from a mutual friend that Sonia has been telling people at the wedding that Victor and I are on the rocks, that he's planning to break up with me. That's why she was his date, not me. I confronted Victor and he denied it all. Said Sonia was just stirring up trouble, but the trust was gone. I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't being honest with me. I decided to take action. I reached out to Victor's cousin, the bride, and asked if we could talk. I needed someone in his family to know my side of the story. She was surprisingly understanding and even apologized for not inviting me herself. She said she'd talk to Victor about it. The next thing I know, Victor's blowing up my phone, angry that I went behind his back. He said I embarrassed him in front of his family. We had a huge fight, and I finally let out all the resentment I'd been holding in. I told him I was tired of being the doormat, of being the one who always had to compromise. I guess something in my words hit home because he went quiet, and for the first time, he actually seemed to listen. We decided to take a break, to figure things out. I needed space to think, and he needed to sort out his priorities. It was tough, but felt like the right thing to do. During our time apart, I did some soul searching. I realized I'd lost myself in this relationship, trying to please Victor and avoid conflict with Sonia. I decided no more. I started hanging out with my friends again, focusing on my hobbies, and just doing things that made me happy. Then, out of the blue, Victor shows up at my place. He's in tears, apologizing for everything. Says he had a long talk with Sonia and they had a falling out. He realized how much he'd hurt me and that he wanted to make things right. He promised to cut ties with Sonia if that's what it took to be with me. I was skeptical, but I could see he was sincere. We talked for hours, laying everything out on the table. It was like we were finally seeing each other clearly. We agreed to start over, take things slow, and really work on our communication. No more secrets, no more running to Sonia with our problems. It's been a week since that talk, and things are different. Better. We're not perfect, but we're trying. And for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful about us. Thanks for reading. My husband buys a house without my okay using money. I don't have so. I lawyer up and block the sale until he learns to treat me as an equal. My husband and I both make good money, but his income doubled and now triples mine. We have always shared finances in the house equally. What we have seen with a lot of our friends is the husbands covering everything and then have resentment and use that against their wives in arguments, which is why we try to split things as equally as we could. This setting has recently caused some resentment on my side, especially as his income increased to triple mine. My husband eats more, buys more quality, expensive things, and in general buys stuff more impulsively than I do. I have made comments, but it's not like we can't afford the stuff he buys, so it just kind of settled by itself. After groceries and bills, my husband would have funds left for hobby, games, and still lots for savings. Meanwhile, I have to cut most personal expenses to save. I have asked him about adjusting our financial responsibilities to be proportional to our income. And his responses were like, sure, maybe next month. After that, we had a fight about an unrelated issue, and it took so long for us to reconcile that the proposal was just forgotten. Another point he had made is that our take-home pay is roughly the same, so he doesn't want to cover more. But that's because he has already maxed out his 401k, insurance, savings, stock funds, etc. before getting the cash. He also occasionally got stock bonuses that he claims he can't vest until certain dates, so that money can't be touched. Now, my husband is wanting to buy a house. He likes everything about it, and I do too. However, it's also going to triple our mortgage payment and debts. I'm so reluctant about it, but he was so adamant that it's a good deal that I just went along. I'm now pulling out all my savings, borrowing from my parents, saving on expenses, just waiting for the closing date. It's barely enough, but he'd like me to ask my parents for more money, and just so we could put more down payment. I'm pretty sure my family can't lend me any more money at this point. Just today, I mentioned to him that I was going to get some wisdom teeth removal surgery, recommended since last year by my dentist, but I could not get it right away. but will now have to save up again because all my funds are going to the new house. He replied in a snarky tone, "Ha, can't do anything about that." I felt so upset at that attitude. I feel like I'm supporting him, and him being able to save so much was because I'm sharing everything equally. And now I'm feeling belittled about not having as much savings for the house, not having funds for my surgery, and just overall doubt if I should continue this way of life truly. Whenever I bring up finances in arguments, his responses usually tell me to just get a job as high-paying as his, and that will stop my worries. However, my job pays less but is very chill, allowing me to have more time for our kids and cooking homemade meals all the time. In the past, he has also admitted that it was nice when I can take the day off early and go run errands, get the kids while he can. Is it okay to communicate that I feel disadvantaged because of our arrangement? How to approach the topic without hurting his ego? He truly believes he's doing his best to make us profit. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Do not buy this house. Tell him bluntly, you cannot afford it, and you refuse to live beyond your means. If he balks, then be more blunt. You make triple what I do. Either we go to a financial advisor, and we lay our cards on the table with the financial advisor, or I will not even consider buying a home. Financial advisor first, house second. If he refuses, end it. He is hiding money. Comment 2. If he is benefiting from your job by not having to pay for childcare or other expenses, you need to be compensated for that. If he eats more than you need to be compensated. You absolutely should not be borrowing money from your parents in a situation like this. And you absolutely should not move forward with a home purchase until you have changed the split in finances. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around for this update. So, the house situation got way out of hand. My husband, let's call him Mr. Big Spender, decided to go ahead and close on the house without waiting for my final say. I found out when I got a call from the bank about the mortgage documents needing my signature. I was floored. He just assumed I'd be okay with it because, in his mind, it was a done deal. I felt steamrolled. Then, my sister-in-law, who's always had it out for me, decided to stir the pot. She told my parents about the new house and how much we were spending. My parents were shocked and upset. They had no idea we were stretching ourselves so thin. They called me worried sick, and I had to calm them down, explaining that I wasn't on board with this decision. It was humiliating. The next day, Mr. Big Spender and I had a huge blowout. I told him how unfair it was for him to make such a big decision without my consent. He threw back that I was overreacting and that I should trust his judgment. Trust his judgment? After he'd just bulldozed over my concerns, I couldn't believe his nerve. But here's where things took a turn. My brother, who's a lawyer, got wind of the situation. He called me up and offered to help. He said there might be a way to delay the closing or get out of the deal, since I hadn't signed anything yet. I was hesitant at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized I had to stand up for myself. I took my brother's advice and contacted the bank. I explained the situation, and they were surprisingly understanding. They put a hold on the closing process until we could sort things out. Mr. Big Spender was livid when he found out. He accused me of sabotaging our future, but I held my ground. This wasn't just his future, it was ours, and I wasn't going to be bullied into a corner. In the midst of all this, my work friend, who's been my confidant through everything, suggested I look into a separate savings account just for myself. It felt sneaky at first, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. I needed some financial security that wasn't tied to Mr. Big Spender's impulses. So I opened a separate account and started putting a little money aside from each paycheck. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And you know what? It felt empowering. I started to feel like I had some control back in my life. Then, as if things couldn't get more complicated, Mr. Big Spender's company announced they were downsizing. His job was safe, but the stock bonuses he'd been banking on were now frozen. Suddenly, he wasn't the high roller he thought he was. He was worried, and for the first time, he was the one feeling financially vulnerable. That's when the tables turned. He came to me, sheepish, asking for my opinion on what we should do. I told him we needed to live within our means, and that meant selling the new house, even if it was at a loss. He didn't like it, but he knew I was right. We put the house on the market, and thankfully it sold quickly. After the dust settled, we had a long talk about our finances. I laid it all out for him, how his spending made me feel, how the unequal financial burden was affecting me, and how we needed to make changes. To my surprise, he listened. He agreed to adjust our contributions based on our incomes and to involve me in all major financial decisions moving forward. It's been a rough few days, but I feel like we're finally on the same page. I'm not naive enough to think everything's going to be perfect from now on, but at least I've made my stance clear. And for once, Mr. Big Spender knows I won't be pushed around. Thanks for reading this whirlwind of an update. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.